Welcome everyone. My name is Chris Rock, also known as Hiking Seal in the caching world. My two partners in crime today, I'm going to try and say it right. CJ Hove, did I get it right? Carl, your mic's off. He's also known as Carl. Carl, can't hear you. Okay, now talk.
Yeah, it was close enough. Hello, world.
And then we also have Rich Reagan, or R. Reagan. I suspect you guys are familiar with hearing his voice. He has been a helper on many things. He is also an ambassador for Cachetur. And both of them, if you have questions or there's something going on in the chat, they will be the ones typing at you while I am talking. Who are you and where are you from? Put your caching name and where are you from, if you haven't already. I know a lot of you. Just type in the chat there, what is your caching name and where are you from? Hi, Dad. Texas, Florida, Nevada, Minnesota, Arizona, Michigan. There's a lot of you Michiganders here. I noticed that as the registrations were coming in. North Dakota. A couple of you guys from North Dakota. Kansas. And I'd say following the Michiganders, there's a lot of Californians. And quite a few folks from Canada. I was surprised at how many folks there were from Canada. All right. Oh, Jersey, Northern Jersey. All New Jerseyans, they always specify whether they're north or south. I've noticed that. Yes, you do take caching very seriously in Michigan, and you guys are ready to plan some road trips. So let's get going here. So in your workbook, go ahead and open up to page 3. And that is the how to get started in installing Tampermonkey. Okay. Hopefully all of you have set up an account on the website. If you have not set up an account yet, just a heads up, if you have an older geocaching name that has a special character in it, you can't set that up like that on Cachetur, just because geocaching no longer allows those characters to be used. If you want your special character, please just send a support ticket and that can be fixed for you. Okay, let's talk about installing Tampermonkey in the Cachetur Assistant. This should, I just want to do this as a very quick little demo here, but this is something you got to do on your own. So start out just going to Tampermonkey. Okay. When you open it up, it immediately takes you to the install page, and it should take you to the appropriate tab for whatever browser you're in. It just automatically goes there. If for some reason it didn't grab the right one, then click on the appropriate tab, hit the download button. Mine says installed because, hey, guess what? I already have it installed. And it'll just take you through a download sequence. Just follow the instructions on the screen, and that one's pretty straightforward. Then once you have Tampermonkey installed, you'll be able to see up on your browser there, right here to the right of the URL, there's a little, it's the same symbol, the rounded rectangle with the thing that looks like 2 eyes. Okay, that is the symbol that Tampermonkey's installed. And then once that is installed, go to Cachetur, log in if you have not already. This is the dashboard, by the way. When you first come to Cachetur, this is what you're going to see. And then you want to go to the tools and resources, depending on how zoomed you are in. So see, if I zoom in a bunch, whoa, that was even more than I meant to zoom in. It may only say tools. Okay, so tools or tools and resources. Down, click that, and then hit scripts and macros. So once you go into tools, you hit scripts and macros, and here is the Cachetur Assistant. You just hit download over here on the right. Okay, and then hit download again, and it's going to actually take you to the Tampermonkey screen where the script is. And for me, it says reinstall because I already have it installed. For you, if you've not installed it before, it should say install, and I'll just happen automatically. And then the way to test it is if you go to a cache page, okay? So not just on your geocaching dashboard, you got to go to a cache page. And up in the green bar up above, you'll see it says activate the Cachetur Assistant. Just click that. And there it is. You'll have a little drop down. If you have any trips set up already, there'll be a drop down. You can pick your trip from there. Okay. You want to install the Cachetur Assistant because it will make your life so much easier when you are trying to add caches to a trip, which we're going to do in just a moment here. Let's talk about creating a trip. So this is page 5 in the workbook. So go back to the dashboard here. And then from the trips menu, to create a new trip, we pick create a new trip. And then you just have this form here that you can fill out. And the example trip that I'm going to be working on, I'm here in Salt Lake City, and well, we'll say that I'm going to take a trip over to Evanston, Wyoming, and I'm going to stay the night up there, and I want to get some caches on my way there. So name of the trip, I'm going to call it test, just so it matches everything in your workbook. And this is a car trip. My destination, as I said, is Evanston, Wyoming. Okay. And you can type kind of whatever you want in there. If it's something that is recognized as a city and state, or city and region, I should say, it would probably make things a little bit easier for some steps down the road. Okay. Put in your dates. Okay, so whatever day you plan to start the trip on, and since we're talking about one-day trips here, we probably want to have the same date here. That's our focus for today. We're focusing on a single day trip. If you're doing a multi-day trip, then obviously put in your start and end dates. And usually I don't put in times, I just check the box for all day. Okay, your preference, play around with it, see how it works. Okay. Now these 3 boxes, duration, length, and trip description, that's up to you. Put in whatever information is useful to you, or if you're sharing this with other people, you know, what do they need to know? Maximum participants, as you see, you don't really need to fill in a number there any longer because you can just leave it to 0 and allow as many as you want. And visibility, you can make it private or you can make it super duper private and put a password on there. Okay. We used to have the option for public trips, so this is a little bit left over from there. Basically, you don't need to worry about visibility too much unless for some reason you want to put a password on it to protect it from the people you're traveling on the trip with. Okay. I do want to make one mention here, create a subtrip. Now, as I said, our focus today is making a single day trip. And you know, I really want to emphasize, I know we have some pretty experienced people here in the room, but for newbies, we want to be able to make this really accessible so they can set up their first trip. So that's why we're just doing a single day trip. Those of you with more experience, you know, like I said, hopefully you'll pick up a nugget or two. But our goal today isn't to make massive multi-day epic trips. Okay, so in the parent trip, if you did have a big trip set up and you want to put in individual days, this is where you would attach this trip, the individual day, to the parent trip. So this is how you start building the multi-day trips. Not something I'm getting into detail. I just want to teach you what that drop down's for. So when we get into the advanced class and you start planning the multi-day trips, you get an idea of where to go. And then you just click Save Trip because you've got everything entered there. Okay. And I'm actually going to hit cancel because I already have that set up. Okay. And then here, is our trip. There's nothing in there right now. Okay, we don't have any waypoints or anything. So that's our first step. We need to start adding some waypoints. And we have 3 different ways that we're going to add waypoints here. Okay, we're going to go with method 1 first, and we're going to add individual waypoints. So we've already created a new trip. Okay, we want to start out adding the starting and the ending trips. I'm sorry, starting and ending waypoints. Then we'll add caches in between those waypoints or other waypoints. So how do we add a waypoint? Let's start out adding a cache, because hey, that's the thing that we care about the most. Okay, so I went to this cache page earlier. Go to a cache page, any cache page, because you already have the Cachetur Assistant installed. From the drop down up here, pick the trip that you wish to add the cache to. Okay, and then you can click on Send to Cachetur down here. It changes it. And you can set priorities and add a comment here. We'll talk about those things in a little bit. Just realize that's something you can actually do from the cache page as well. You don't have to wait until it gets into the trip. So that waypoint is actually part of our trip right now.
Some might have to activate the Cachetur Assistant.
Yes, I had mentioned that earlier because I had already activated it. It was there. I had the drop down. And then once I refresh this, okay, you can see that cache has been added to our trip. Now, just a quick little sidebar here. If I go to the map, okay, and I suspect you all are familiar with it, initially comes up to the search map. Okay, the Cachetur Assistant does not work with the search map. Frantically working on that. Carl is frantically working on that. And I want to go to the browse map. So for those of you who weren't aware that there's actually 2 maps, in the upper right corner of the map, see how it says browse geocaches? So that takes you from the search map to the browse map. And the Cachetur Assistant works with this map. See, it actually is showing a route on there already. Okay, because I may have had a route in this trip before. All right, if I wish to add, let's come on over here and find one that I haven't found yet. How about down here? If I wish to add a cache from the map, I left click on it and I get that nice little bubble that pops up, and look at what the assistant did. Down at the bottom of it, it says send to Cachetur, same as it did on the cache page. Click that. Okay, and we get those same options, but that has now been added to our trip as well. Okay, so what's really nice about having the Cachetur Assistant built into the map is now, let's say we're following an interstate, you know, I can go along and go, oh, well, what about this cache? That looks interesting. Oh, yeah, I want to go find that. And then you can just click and add as you're dragging along on the map. Okay. And then if we go back to the trip, I reload the browser. I reload the cache page in the browser. And voila, we can now see that other one. Sometimes it may come up that you don't see the cache, and you'll get a yellow bar at the top that says this GC number has not been fetched yet. So that simply means that that cache is not in the Cachetur database. Okay. Just give it a minute and, okay, a couple of minutes, and it will eventually refresh. Cachetur has to use the API, go over to geocaching, grab that cache, and bring it back over. Okay. Now, I just wanted to show you adding a cache from the map. So I really don't want that second cache in my trip, so I'm going to delete it. I hit the waypoint drop-down menu here, and at the bottom, there's delete. So that's the best way, and of course it confirms. That's the best way to delete individual waypoints. If you need to delete a whole bunch at once, you do it from the waypoint menu. Okay, so that was page 6, how to add individual caches. Now let's talk about adding waypoints that are not caches. So over on page 7, if you have the coordinates for the trip, for the waypoint, you can just click the Add Waypoint link here. Opens up this menu. From the drop-down, you can pick what kind of waypoint it is. It doesn't matter that much. That's just for your convenience, and I'll change the icon on it. Okay. In your list of waypoints, so you can call it whatever you want. So, you know, I can call this lodging. Okay, and I'm going to type in home, and then something interesting happens there because I've called a waypoint home before. It remembers that, and it says, hey, do you want to use this one that you've done before? So I could click on that and it would just enter it. Okay. And there's also a way to enter things from saved places, but like I said, we're going for the most direct route, you know, for people who haven't set up saved places and that sort of thing. So make a note, there is another way to do it. We're just going here for now. So if you've never entered a home coordinate before, and just FYI, these are not my real home coordinates for anybody who's planning to come over and visit me here. Okay, I'm going to type in my coordinates. Okay, so I just type in the coordinates, double check my typing because I'm such a wonderful typist. I could enter a comment or the priority, same thing that we saw when we were adding them from cache pages using the assistant. Okay, and we'll understand more about those in a little bit. And then I click Add Waypoint. Okay, and it added it to our trip. Now that's not quite the right order that I wanted in. We'll fix that in a minute. One more way to add a waypoint, and that is from the Geocoder. So we've added a cache, we've added a waypoint that we knew coordinates for. Now we're going to add a waypoint that we don't know coordinates for, but we do know a street address. We have other real, well, I shouldn't say real world because coordinates are pretty real too, but you know, in a language that non-geocachers speak. Okay. So we can find the Geocoder in the waypoint menu. It's also in the tools and resources menu. So whichever one you want to go to. Let's stick with from the trip, and I believe this is where what I put in the workbook anyway. So from the waypoint menu, we go to Add from Geocoder. Okay. And that's what the Geocoder looks like. Now you can start typing in wherever it is that you want to go. Type in the address. Sometimes if you're staying in a hotel in a smaller town, you could type in the name of the hotel, such as this. So it's the Holiday, if only I could type, Holiday Inn Express. Okay, and then I start typing in the name of the town. Okay, and once I hit enter, it gives me a drop down, and you know, hey, I already have my reservation at this hotel, so I can see the beginning of the address here, and yep, that matches my reservation. Now be aware when you are typing in addresses and things into the Geocoder, this is coming from OpenStreetMaps, and not every address is in OpenStreetMaps. OSM, if you're more familiar with that, it's crowdsourced. So people may not have put it in yet, especially if it's a newer hotel or maybe an office location, to something that somebody may not have entered yet. Okay, so if you can't get it to come up, It'll give you an approximation. If you type in a town, it'll give you the center point of the town, those kinds of things. What I often do is on another tab, I'll open up Google Maps, and then I'll just kind of compare the images and drag the one in the geocoder until it matches Google Maps. And you can change what's showing in the geocoder in terms of the map. Whoop. Getting seasick? Right now it's showing OSM, OpenStreetMaps. Okay. Notice down at the bottom, what I've done up here, the map layers. I'm trying to point it out without making it pop up. See the map layers right above the search box? If I click on that, if I hover over it, I don't even have to click on it, which is the issue. Down at the bottom of that, I can change this to Google Maps. Okay. All right, and then let's say that unlike what's happening here where it's not popping up correctly, I drag the map around, I finally find what I'm looking for, and I can click on it and see how it put the pin there. And if you watch over on the right side, as soon as I click, the coordinates update for wherever I place the pin. Okay, so that's the purpose of the geocoder. You drop a pin on there, it gives you the coordinates, and then once you have what you want, okay, and you can change the labels on the waypoint here, just like we did when we added a waypoint. So these two are just text. All right, click add, and then it puts that into your trip. To get back to your trip, there's a little link down here. It's the name of your trip. Click that, takes you back, and lo and behold, we've now added that waypoint to our trip as well. Now, as I mentioned, these things are not in the correct order. So I just want to rearrange them and get my starting point as my starting point. So notice as I move my cursor over the number, okay, it turns into a 4-direction arrow, and then I can drag my home where I'm starting from, okay, up to the top. And in the upper right, see how it says save sorting? Okay, I need to click that. And if I hit refresh, then the numbers will be in the correct order. Okay. Okay, and then the last thing that you want to do so that you can add other waypoints is double click on the waypoint below where you want to insert other waypoints. Okay, just double click that. And there we go. I don't have a steady hand. I accidentally start dragging it. All right, hang on. I'm going to zoom out for a minute. I have better success. This is not the website. This is Chris's lack of steady hand. I think I got it. No, I didn't.
No more coffee for you.
I got it. I got a new mouse. My hand is just not on autopilot for it. All right, and I know I got it because you see the dotted line there. Okay. All right. Okay. Just glancing down here. Okay. Hey, how we doing, gang? We got any questions? Everybody following so far? We're through method 1 here, and we've learned how to insert and rearrange. Just want to check in with you guys. Looks like everybody's doing pretty good.
People were awed by the geocoder.
Oh, by the geocoder, and I see the Cachetur Assistant. I'm kind of scrolling back up through the chat, some of the things I didn't see. All right. Looks like people are learning some stuff, learning how to plan some fun trips here. Cool beans. Okay. Well, let's move on to method 2 then. And this is the one that tends to get folks in trouble. We're going to add caches from a list. So we are on page 10 if you are following in the workbook. Okay. So to add caches from a list, we go to the waypoints menu, And then down here towards the bottom, oh, let me zoom out just a little bit so you can see the whole menu. Okay. In the bottom of that drop down, we have import from bookmark list. That's what I'm going to demonstrate. But be aware, you've got other options. You can also import from a Pocket Query, or for those of you who are still using GSAC and you want to create a GPX file there, you can upload that into Cachetur to route and just get the waypoints in a proper order. So you can import from 3 different types of lists. I'm going to import from the bookmark list, or just plain old list as it's called now. Once I click that, it takes me to a place where I can see all the different lists that I have associated with my caching account. And I have one here that's called Cachetur.no list. So I'm going to click that one because that's the one I want to import. And I click import. And then it's going to insert those caches where I put the insertion point. Okay, so as soon as it says down here at the bottom, the caches have imported, I can click the orange arrow and see they inserted between my hotel and that cache I had in there already. Now, a couple of things here. The cache I had in there already is actually in that list. So notice when I imported the list, it didn't duplicate that cache. So when you're adding lists, you don't have to worry about duplications if you've added the waypoint individually and you forgot that it was in your list or something. That's not a problem. The other thing, look at the names of the caches. They're alphabetical. I probably do not want to travel to these caches in alphabetical order. That's going to make for a really long trip, okay? And this is the biggest thing that folks struggle with Cachetur, because they have this list of caches that they want to get. They want to dump it into Cachetur and have it tell them, you know, what's the best way to drive around to all of those. Well, it can do that up to 80 waypoints. It can do that for. If you have more than 80 waypoints in your list, then you could do it in chunks, but that's not the most efficient way. We can have a maximum of 1,000 caches in a list on geocaching, and you can import that, and you are going to have one heck of a mess on your hands. Okay, so be cautious with the lists that you import. Be sure that they're of reasonable size. Now, in order to get them in order, we can drag them, as I did earlier, and you know, hey, with only 8 waypoints in the whole trip, that wouldn't be that hard to rearrange. Or we can optimize them, and we can get Cachetur to do that automatically. We will get to optimization in a minute, in a couple of pages here, okay? But just please recognize that if you dump a whole bunch of caches into the trip, they are in alphabetical order. They are not in the trip order. And here, let me say it as I show it to you, okay? The route follows the order of the waypoints in the list. So however you order those, then it's going to go from point A to point B to point C to point, I guess I should say numbers because they're numbered in the trip. So it'll go from point 1 to point 2 to point 3 as they're listed, not in the most efficient trip order. Once you wrap your head around that concept, your life is going to be so much easier with setting up a trip here in Cachetur. Okay, so that's pulling waypoint or pulling caches in from a list. Okay, we've already seen how to add other waypoints. Let's go to method 3 and add waypoints from a template. There are so many templates available on Cachetur. A lot of folks don't realize they're here. I didn't even realize until relatively recently how many there are. Templates are found in the tips and templates menu. Crazy, huh? Okay. So I go to trip templates, and what initially pops up is just kind of a random sampling of templates. Okay. If you want to find particular templates, you can use the search box here. And you can search for keywords. So maybe you're hoping there is a template set up for the Geotour that you want to get. So type in the word Geotour. Okay. And it looks like we've got quite a few Geotours in here. Okay, we've got 7, quite a few, whatever. Okay. And then you could, once you find the template you want, you could create a whole new trip from this template, or you could add this to your existing trip. Let me show you a couple other searches here. Let's see, I could also do GeoTrail. There's only one that's called GeoTrail. Sorry, there's a squirrel running through the room right now. You see him? He's like right there. Squirrel. Okay. You can also type in locations. Okay. That might be a popular one. Now realize if you type in a location, it's going to give you the templates that are within a 20K radius, about 12 miles or so for you non-metric folks, since most of the audience here is Americans. We've got quite a few Canadians up here. I know you guys speak in kilometers. Okay, but anyways, so it is set for 20K. And I know that there are actually more templates out there because several were set up back when we were having a 20th anniversary celebration in Geo Woodstock that would hit the caches of most interest between Seattle going up to Abbotsford. So if you want to see other templates along the way, you might have to type in another city, or when we get back to our trip, I'll show you another way of doing it. It's mentioned as the pro tip in your book here. All right. So once I find the template that I want, I click on it. And this is where I have 2 choices. If I'm starting from scratch, I can create a new trip. And that's that same form that we saw before. The only difference is when we get done completing the form and hit Save Trip this time, it will already have all the waypoints that are in that template. The other option is to copy waypoints. And it will have a drop down that'll show all your available trips up here. So you pick the one that you want to add it to. And then over here on the right, you have a bunch of checkboxes. So you could check individual caches, or you can say, oh, just give me all the unfound, or you can check them all by hitting this checkbox. And then down at the very bottom of it, okay, between the list and the map, you say copy selected waypoints. It's going to copy them from the template and put them into your existing trip. Okay. Laura, unfortunately, well, you could certainly type just a state name, but let me show you what happens. Back up a little further here. Okay. So if I do that, oh, isn't that interesting? I think I got all DC. Let's see what happens if I just put in WA. So it's looking for the letters WA. So yeah, this one's in Utah. And then several that are over in Europe. So bottom line, can you search for it? Yes. Is it going to do you a lick of good? No. So if you're searching for a location, search for a city and a region. And let me get to the other way of doing it, because that might be more useful to you. All right, so you've seen this way. Let's go back to our trip. Okay, so now I'm back inside the trip. And then if I go to the trip menu from inside the trip, if I do it, this is another one that adjusts depending on how zoomed in I am. So right now it's cutting off the tips and info. It just says tips. If I click that, Sorry, I was trying to close that. There it goes. Okay, so it has looked at my whole trip, and it's a fairly short trip. You know, it's just going from Salt Lake City to a city that's about an hour away, but it knows I'm in Utah. So it's giving me a list of the recommended caches that are within Utah. In other words, the high favorites. And then below that, there are trip templates that are in the state. So that might be a better way if you're looking in a state. And just heads up, if you're going to cross multiple states, you know, so you're going from California to New York, it would show you all of the templates along that route, you know, all the states that you would be passing through. So that might be a little bit overwhelming, but that would be a good way to get to search by state, essentially. Okay. Okay. So that's how to get caches from a template into your trip. Sorry, there is currently a squirrel running through the room going, wow, I've gotten most of the favorites around here. Appears I got a little bit more work to do. All right, I'll go back to my trip here. Okay, so that's the end of method 3. We have gotten, do the templates include creation dates is a question. And you know, off the top of my head, I don't know. So let's see. Let's click on one of them. Let's click on one of them that's in English. I believe the answer to that would be a no. Now, it is possible that when somebody created the template, up here in the description, they may have indicated a date, but no, there is not an inherent date in there. And Carl, are you still there? Did you just turn off your webcam? Is that correct? Is there a date anywhere? I should have mentioned that aside from being an ambassador.
If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, it should say when the template was last edited.
Oh, there we go. Last edited. All right. And as I was starting to say, Carl, he protests the title, but many of us kind of consider him Tom, who is the developer of Cachetur. He's kind of his lieutenant. So he's a walking resource book here on Cachetur. So feel very lucky that he's here helping me out today. Okay. So let's see, any other questions here? All right. So back to the trip. All right, so we've gotten all the caches, all the waypoints, all our hotels, whatever other stops, you know, if we want to stop for lunch, we threw a restaurant in there. We got all the waypoints that we want in the trip. Now, we don't want to optimize this yet because we might need to modify some of those waypoints. You know, if you look at the list, we got a multi in there, you know, maybe we need to visit some different waypoints before we route it, you know, get those waypoints into the trip. Maybe we have some puzzles that we need to add corrected coordinates for. So if we need to modify the coordinates of any of the waypoints that are currently in our trip, we want to do that before we optimize. So let's look at a couple of ways we might want to change the coordinates here. So I'm over on page 13, and the first thing we're going to do is, let's say we have a puzzle. And I know this top one, it is an unknown and it's a challenge, but believe it or not, I still threw some updated coordinates in there. That's actually a cache I own. So if we look at the cache page, just because I know we have some newer cachers in here as well, you may not realize that on the cache page, we can change the coordinates. So if you solve a puzzle, you hit that little pencil, and it pops up a box where you type in your corrected coordinates that you got from your puzzle solution. And I'm just doing this on a challenge because I didn't want to give away anybody's puzzle coordinates, or including my own. Okay, so you just type in your corrected coordinates, you hit submit, it'll ask you to confirm it, and then notice how the coordinates are italicized. That lets you know those are corrected coordinates. So I want to pull those into the trip because I want to route to the corrected coordinates, not to the posted coordinates. Okay, so back over here in Cachetur, from the drop down, if I want to do this just for one waypoint, okay, I can fetch the corrected coordinates. And this is the waypoint menu, the drop down menu on the waypoint. Fetch corrected coordinates. Okay, and if you saw it blink, it updated it. And then notice a little pencil icon appeared. And if I hover over it, it tells me that it has corrected coordinates. And just FYI, any of these icons, if you're ever wondering what they mean, you can just hover over it and it will tell you what it is. Okay, so now we've updated the coordinates on that one. Let's say you're doing a GeoArt and you've got a ton of puzzles that you're going to. So you don't want to have to go through and click fetch corrected coordinates on all of them. You can import them in bulk from the waypoints menu. Import corrected coordinates, and then it will go through and just try to import corrected coordinates for every single cache that's in your trip. Okay. So only do that if the majority of your caches have corrected coordinates. All right, once that import is done, then we have all our corrected coordinates in there. Now, let's take a look at the multi. Okay. I'm just hesitating because you see this little symbol right here on the welcome to the big beehive. We should be seeing that symbol on the multi as well. It's kind of interesting. Oh, I know why. Nope, not the answer. Oh, Carl, you got a brilliant idea why I'm not getting a additional child waypoint symbol here?
No.
Okay.
Are we sure they are stated as separate child waypoints in the geocache, or are they just pointed out as text?
And you can even look at page 15 because that's there. That's what that screen captures of. If I look at it, we're just going to the cache, and there are waypoints. Okay, so there are in fact child waypoints there. All right, well, this should still work. Now, before I bring those child waypoints in as waypoints to the trip, I want to set an insertion point. Otherwise, they're all going to come in at the end. Okay, well, and you know what? We haven't optimized yet, so I'm okay if they all come in at the end. No, I take that back. I want them to come in at least before, hey, there we go. I got it in one double click that time. At least before my endpoint. So we'll get all the waypoints to come in there. I go to the drop-down menu on the waypoint again. Well,
just break in on the multi to the commas. The child waypoints doesn't have coordinates.
Yeah, so it's not going to be in the drop-down, is it?
Yeah, okay. That's why they're not showing up.
All right, so I'm going to delete that out of there. And y'all, I apologize. I don't entirely know why that's happening. Let's try importing it this way. Okay, it thinks it's already in the trip, but let me refresh. Okay, so since I deleted it from the trip, now it's no longer in the trip. Try this one more time. Okay. Well, let me show you how to do it using the big beehive here. If I hit the drop down, you'll notice there is an additional menu item, copy waypoints from cache to trip. And voila, it does exactly that. It was a parking coordinate, so it adds that parking coordinate as a waypoint in the trip. Okay. Well, Carl, I guess we got something to figure out later on here, huh? Because that's a little bit weird. Okay. So now we have all the waypoints in the trip that we want, and we are finally ready to optimize them, to put them in the order that is best to drive to, and to do that automatically. So this is page 16 in the workbook. We go to the waypoints menu, sort prioritize waypoints. Okay. Now, when I come in here, I want to be sure that my starting and ending waypoints are the starting and ending waypoints here. Okay. If they're not, I need to go back to my trip and put them as first and last waypoint, because those two are not going to move. It's just going to optimize or reorder all the ones that are in between those two. So I can mark them individually by just clicking the mark button. All right, or I can hit toggled mark and then it does all of them. Okay. Then don't hit the blue button. You're not ready to hit the blue button yet. Go down a little farther. Okay. Down here, calculate and sort by optimal route. Down at the bottom here. Click that, and that's what's going to reorder all of the waypoints between your starting and ending point. Okay. So that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. It has changed the order of them up here. See how they're no longer in alphabetical order? Okay. Now I want to hit the blue button, the save, sorting, and prioritizing. Okay. We are now back in the trip. And if we look at the map, okay.
If you just scroll back up again, we have a question about the symbol after the star on the multi, but
it's a cache that I own. And now look at that. The child waypoints is popping back up.
it could be high load plus the fact that you own the geocache, but
yeah. And I actually suspect that latter issue might be more the issue, huh? But yeah, so the star, and that's the same as on the geocaching website, but that does not have alternate text popping up. So that's kind of interesting. The hourglass symbol, that means that it's going to take a little while because it has multiple points to it. No, this one, Valerie, it tells you that it has child waypoints. That's the one that was hanging me up earlier because I knew it should be there for this one, but it wasn't because I knew it had child waypoints. And here, just to drive the point home, y'all, now that the symbol is there and Cachetur knows that there are child waypoints, if I hit the drop down, now it has the copy waypoints from cache to trip in there. Click that. And see, it copied all the other waypoints in, as well as the comments. So if we go back and we look at that cache, see how the additional waypoints have the note in it? The note comes into Cachetur as a comment. Okay. All right, so now that's working correctly. And you know what? Let me drag the Holiday Inn back down where it belongs at the bottom. And then just for the sake of argument, I'll go in and optimize it again. So we'll mark them all. Go ahead and calculate an optimal route. Okay, so now see how it's got the symbols for the additional waypoints in there? Now we're looking good. And everything's in order. So I save it and we come back here. Okay, and the one last thing, and it's not happening in here because I already had the route in here for this trip, so it's looking okay. But when you come back usually and you look at the map, it's going to be the route that it was before you optimized it. What you need to do in order to show the route based on the current order, if you wait about 5 minutes and you still have it set for automatic trip calculation, it will eventually update. If you want to force it and say, you know, give me a new calculation faster, in the trip menu, you can order a new route calculation. So I click that, okay, and it lets me know that the new route calculation is in progress. When it's done, up here where the little bell is, we'll get an orange notification symbol, and then I know I have a new trip calculation. And gang, just a heads up about the optimizer, because this is probably the thing most people have questions about when they first try to use Cachetur. Like I said, it's only good for 80 waypoints, and that actually, you know, it's like, oh, well, why can't we do more? Because it's expensive. Trip optimization. This is the kind of software that trucking companies use, where they're trying to figure out how to get their trucks, you know, their delivery units to their customers in the most efficient route possible so that they're not wasting gas. So, you know, you see all those Amazon delivery trucks buzzing around. They're using that kind of logistics software. They're using this optimization on steroids, and it is really, really expensive software. You know, the kind that like Amazon does, that's tens of thousands of dollars. Okay, so the route optimization is actually one of the most expensive parts of the site. So one, if you think that's great and you really enjoy using the route optimization, that helps you out a lot, please think about kicking in a little bit of a contribution to help keep it up and running so that we can keep it at 80 waypoints. I know there have been times when the budget has gotten tight and we've had to talk about dropping it down. But just realize that's why it's 80 waypoints. That's why it's not 1,000, or why it's not just, you know, 10 like you can do in Google Maps. Yeah, so I hope that helps everybody understand the 80 waypoint limit and kind of make your peace with it. It is a very powerful tool, and it helps get you going, but you also have to use common sense with it, because the routing software, it's called Graph-Hopper, okay? It will do what you tell it, okay? And we notice we've got the notification now. So if I refresh the cache page, now it would be showing the new route if that had actually changed, okay? Look at the route, zoom in. Hang on, I'm going to zoom out a second so I can zoom in a little bit more quickly than one click at a time here. And I'm using the plus button on the map if you don't quite catch what I'm doing here. Okay. Zoom in and be sure that it makes sense. Grasshopper, it's based on the OSM database. So it doesn't always know things that the human brain makes common sense out of. You know, if you're out in a rural area, you know, doggone good and well, there's a road that goes through there, but that road is not in OSM, so it can't route on that road. Or in an urban environment, the one that kind of makes me crazy is it'll have you go down a street, stop here, get this cache, come back, you go down, you get some more caches, and then you come back down that very same street, and almost directly across the street, you know, the appropriate 1/10 of a mile apart, there's another cache, and it's just having you stop again because it's on the other side of the street. You told it to route optimally for a car, okay? It doesn't understand that you can get out of the car and then walk across the street and get both those caches. All right, you've just got to look at it. You've got to apply common sense to it. It does a good job, and it's going to be a good approximation. Just be careful. Oh, another one that it commonly messes up, frontage roads. It'll sometimes have you stopping on the interstate. Okay, now we all know not to do that, right? No matter, you know, that guardrail, it's right there on the exit ramp. Don't do it. Okay. So just look at it, be safe, apply common sense. It's a computer. You know, garbage in, garbage out. You tell it to optimize by car, that's what it's going to do. In a minute, we'll get to, we can change the route and we can actually have us walk to things as well. Okay, so I hope that helps you helps you understand a little bit more about route optimization. Like I said, that is one of the most powerful tools that people want to use, but probably the one they have the most questions about. Okay. And people are throwing in the chat, you know, different ways that they move it around and try to you know, adjust it for their needs. You know, on the side road, and we're going this way. We want to drive. We're not really planning to stop, but we want to drive around and, you know, see this historic site, or be sure we drive down this famous road or something like that. Okay, so optimization's great. Apply a little common sense after the optimization is done. Okay, and it sounds like we've actually got a fair number of experienced users in here. Okay, so the question about when the route is too complicated, that is usually an issue with it being a rural area, or it doesn't know where the roads are. It has information that's missing. What I would recommend in that situation, when you're marking them, try marking a smaller number of them. So what you can do is, you know, you have your original starting point, and I know your ending waypoint is down here, but try marking just like the first 10 and optimize within there. And then like pick the end of that one and then try to optimize more. You might end up doing a little bit more dragging, but basically try picking a fewer number of waypoints. You're just overloading what it can do given the routing options that are available. Okay.
You can also right-click on a map and add parking waypoints directly close to the geocaches down on the map there to try and help.
True. Yeah, what Carl's talking about is if you have a lot of caches, you know, like we're seeing with some up here where it's saying, you know, it's just a little bit off route. So that cache is 163 feet from the road. You know, and this one is 309 feet. So sometimes it gets confused by that. So you need to set up a parking waypoint for those caches.
You can also do it directly in the drop-down box behind the geocache there.
Yeah, and we can do it here. Okay, we can add a parking coordinate for use en route doing it that way, or in just a couple of pages, I'm going to show you another way of doing it, because if we do it this way, you won't actually see the waypoint, and it's a personal preference thing. And again, I'm just trying to keep this accessible to folks who are newer to the site. If you're comfortable, you already know how to add waypoints, and this is comfortable for you, then yes, Carl's right. This is a better way to do it. Okay, just click that, and then it will essentially update the coordinates just for use in the route. It will still show the original coordinates, the actual posted coordinates. Okay. Okay. More coming on parking coordinates. Let's talk about ETAs real quick here, unless there are any other questions. Okay, cool, Keith. I'm glad we got you straightened out. Anything else about optimization before I move on? Okay. And honestly, Keith, it shouldn't be the distance. Being over 200 miles, that's no problem. I've probably done, max 500-600 miles in a day, something like that.
I think it's
So
a combination between the distance and the number of possible routes.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you're doing 200 miles and it's not necessarily along an interstate, you're wiggling your way around trying to get a bunch of counties or something, then yeah. And they're all on frontage roads or back roads, or in the middle of an area that's not near a street, as far as Grasshopper knows. Okay.
In 90%, it's the browser, the user's browser, that can't handle that number of route points.
Oh, that's an excellent point too. And is there a good way to handle that, Carl? Close all the browser tabs or something?
No, basically add more information to the geocache or to the trip, split it up into sub-trips. There are some things to do, but the more of a straight line you give it, and also smaller route points, the better.
Okay. So try to break it down into more manageable bites. You can eat an elephant, but it's got to be one bite at a time. Okay. Thanks, Carl.
Yeah, or split route somewhere in the middle and just select start new car route from here.
Okay. Yeah.
Like when we split up between walking and
Yeah, and I will show how to do that in just a moment. Let me get the ETAs in here. Okay. So we're on page 18, and this is actually an ETA override. So if you, what a lot of people care about is, can I get this all done in a day? We have all bitten off way more than we can chew when we're caching, right? You have this list of caches you want to get. No, there's this other cache. It's right over here. Let's go grab that. And you never even make it to the end of your list because you're chasing squirrels that look like caches all day. Okay, so how can you manage your time? Well, when we're planning the trip, go ahead and put an ETA in it. And this is typically done on the first waypoint. So this is kind of, well, what time do you want to leave home? Right now, this a regular waypoint that's not a cache doesn't have any stop time assigned to it. It's just you immediately arrive and depart. So my ETA at home, and basically this boils down to what time do I want to leave home, I can set up by going to the edit menu. Now, this often is another thing that puzzles people. Notice when I hover over the waypoint, see how that little gray icon, it's a little pad with a pencil on it. And if I click on it, I get a different menu. So there's actually two menus on every waypoint. One's the drop down and one's the edit menu. So using the edit menu, you see it here, ETA override. Okay. And type in what time you want to depart from home. So I want to leave at 8 a.m. put it in 24-hour time. 8 p.m. would be 2000 hours, okay? Or 20:00. If you have that military background or something, you still got to hit the colon. That's just how computers speak. Once I get the ETA entered, I check the box. Okay, and now I'm going to refresh the page and watch what happens. It throws in ETAs to all the subsequent waypoints. Pretty cool, huh? Okay, so we're starting at 8 o'clock. That cache isn't too far from what I put in as my home coordinates. Okay, it looks like I'm 5 minutes and 54 seconds away by the current route. The 0.8, okay, that's direct routing, point A to point B, or as some people call it, crow miles, okay, as the crow flies. And it's 1 mile by car. So if it's taken us 5 minutes to travel 1 mile, there's probably a few stoplights in there somewhere, okay? So that's the ETA, and that information is going to end up being pretty cool when we bring it over into the app when we're executing the trip. Now let's talk about stop times. Cachetur automatically calculates stop times for caches based on the DT. Okay, so check it out. Let me make this a little bigger so you guys can see it. Okay, look at the ETs, the ETAs, ET phone home. Look at the ETA between waypoint 2 and 3. Okay, so that's 46 minutes. All right, but it tells me that it's only 23 minutes and 25 seconds by road. Where the heck's the other 23 minutes coming from? Look at the DT rating on that one. It's a challenge cache, so it's a 5D. It's a double Jasmer, a 5D and a 4.5 terrain. Okay, so if I read the cache page, I discover that the placement is actually only a 1.5. So I do not need 23 minutes to find a 1.5 cache. At least I hope I don't. Sometimes you never know. Okay. So I want to override how much time I'm planning to spend there, that Cachetur is calculating for me to spend there. The way I do that is also by going into the edit menu, and notice right next to the ETA override, we have a stop time override. Now I know it says in seconds there, but it has had an upgrade, so you no longer have to multiply everything times 60. I can just type in 5M, and that will be 5 minutes. No spaces. I could also do 1 hour, 30 minutes, and I did put a space in there. Okay. Now for this example, I do only want 5 minutes, so let me go back to that. And I click the check. Okay. Now it hasn't updated yet. Let me do a refresh. See how it changed the times? So now I'm only spending 5 minutes at waypoint 2. Okay. You could also increase the time. For example, if you had an event in there, and the event on the website is only scheduled for the typical half hour that's required for events, but you're having a meal and hanging out, and you know doggone good and well you're going to spend about 2 hours there, so you can also increase the time. So Laura is asking the question, if you change the coordinates just for the route, it still shows the original coordinates on the waypoint list. That is correct. They're not corrected waypoints. Laura, hang in there and let me show you an easier way of doing that. Okay. And Mary, can you lock certain waypoints before optimizing, lock them in order? No. That's what you do by marking them. When you mark the first one and the last one, they're essentially locked. They're not going to move, okay? Because you wouldn't want to lock one in the middle. That would defeat the purpose of optimizing, Okay, so just by ordering them and then selecting the starting and ending, it locks those two. Okay. All right, are we good on ETAs and stop times and understanding
Just while we were on the topic of ETAs and stop times,
Yes, please.
you may also notice that if you invite a friend to the trip and he has already found a high difficulty geocache, the stop time will automatically reduce because your friend has already found the geocache. So Cachetur guesses that he knows exactly where it is, so the
But what if
time
you
will
have
go
those
down.
kinds of friends that sit there and go, good luck, I'm going to stand here and laugh at you.
Yeah,
Well, you look.
then we have a problem, but it all depends on how many dollars you spend at them.
All right. Okay. Well, that's good to know. So Cachetur accounts for helpful friends. If you have unhelpful friends, you might need to do a stop time override. Daff, hush. I hear you laughing. My frequent caching buddy is in the group, and I might be one of those people that stands there and goes, well, she does it to me too, so I'm not going to feel too bad. Moving on before I get in trouble here. I knew you were. Actually, you guys, I realize we're about halfway through our time here. And we've been sitting here for an hour and a half, and we got about an hour and 15 minutes. Why don't we take a quickie little break and just stretch your legs, and if anybody needs to refresh a drink or use the restroom or anything, we can do that, and then I can field a couple of questions while we're doing that. So let's take just 5-minute break. Timer's on the screen. Okay, we'll see you back in 5. Feel free to chat and say hi if you want. Let's get back to page 19 in the workbook and cover priorities. We got to have priorities. Okay. Priorities can be used in 2 ways. They can simply be little flags to yourself that, oh, this is a really important cache. I want to be sure and get this one. This one, if I got time, it'll be nice, that kind of thing. And I've shown you a couple of different ways to set the priorities. It is done individually on each cache from the edit menu. It's the one that shows just as a little dash here. Okay. And I can set whatever priority I want. Or that same place where we did the route optimization from, the sort and prioritize, I can get in here and I can go through and I can change them all. Okay. I'll finish clicking here. You can also do them in bulk from the priority tool, and that'll base it on type of cache. Okay. So now I've marked them all as ones, and then I need to save that. And then when we go back to the trip, sorry, internet's being a little slow here. There we go. So trip saved. Now see how there's little red pri ones on each of them. If I change it to something else, the 2s are yellows, the 3s are green. Okay. All right. So you can use it just as a flag, or let's say you're targeting particular caches. You want to be sure and grab 1 cache per county, or you're working on a DeLorme challenge and you want to grab 1 cache on each page. But just in case that cache isn't there, when you're planning your trip, you plan a backup for each county or for each page. Now you're not planning to necessarily get that cache in most cases, but you want to have it on the list in case you need to go there. So in that case, what you can do is you make that a particular priority, or you remove the priority, you know, just make it a no priority, and then go into the trip settings. So the trip menu, edit trip info waypoints. Okay. And on the settings tab, see how there's three settings or three tabs? Go to the settings tab. Okay. Scroll down a little bit, and down here in the route calculation section, you can say whether or not you want to include that particular type of priority in the route calculation. So your backup cache for a county, a page, you know, whatever kind of challenge you're working on, okay, you can set that one to no, and it won't be included in the time. Okay? I know normally when I do it, I try to pick the backup cache. My first choice is usually the most popular, the most favorited cache on that page within whatever rubric I'm looking for. It's the most favorited. And then my backup is typically one that's near it, so I don't have a significant change in routing. Okay, so I set that to no, and then while I'm in here, I'll show you the results of the priority change, but I just want to show you one other thing. In time calculation, you might want to adjust this. Okay, this is the time, the extra time that you want to spend at each cache. So let's say you're grabbing an LPC, you know, that's going to be a 1515 more than likely, or maybe a 151, something like that. Cachetur, based on the DT, is going to give you about a minute to get that cache. Now, unless you're running and you're really good at pushing buttons, you're not going to get that done in a minute. So you want to give yourself a little administrative time at each cache. And same thing as stop override. You enter this in seconds. So you see I had 360 in there. That would be 6 minutes if I put in 300. And you could do the same thing that was, whoa, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hit save. You could do the same thing that we saw earlier. You could do the 5M for 5 minutes.
Also, in that menu that you just were, you can also tell GraphOver to avoid toll roads, that you want the fastest, the shortest, or a combination.
Yes. And I encourage you to go through and look at the different settings and see what works with you. There's a lot of settings in there, you know, like factors and that kind of stuff that get a little bit more involved. So like I said, I would kind of want to try and keep things simple here. But if generally the rule of thumb with Cachetur is if you're sitting there going, man, I wish it did this, it probably does. You can try finding the option on your own, or please, you know, shoot us a help request, and I'll show you the different ways to request help at the end here. But there's so many settings, so many ways to customize this site. It is just a wonderful site that you can really, really personalize. So yeah, go through and poke at the other settings. You know, what's this button do? I promise none of them do anything really bad. Okay, so because I excluded the no priorities, notice now the second waypoint that doesn't have a priority doesn't show an ETA either, because I'm not going there. The routing's not going there. Okay. Okay, and Carl's pointing out in the chat, there's the settings. What I just showed you was the settings for the trip, and that will only affect this one trip. If you go up here in the drop down, you also have settings that will affect all the future trips that you make. If you change a setting there, it will not affect an already existing trip, but it will affect the future trips that you create. Okay, so again, get in there and play with settings. That's something I'm planning for the advanced class, where we get in and talk a little bit more about the nitty-gritty about some of these. Okay, and there's that notification we were talking about earlier. If somewhere along the route of your trip somebody publishes an event, you'll get an email, so you can include that in your trip. All right, so I think we've got priorities covered and the admin time, and in the process of doing that, we flipped over onto page 20. Oh, and do be sure that if you are going to omit some type of priority, that your starting and ending points, they have a priority that will be included in the route calculation. Those two are kind of important. Okay, now I mentioned earlier that there were a couple of different ways to do parking. As we were talking about, you could set a parking coordinate doing this, and let me just show you what happens. If I click on that, it brings up a map, and I can actually click on this map and it will use those coordinates to route to, but it will not show in the waypoints, okay? So this is a personal preference kind of thing. You can do it that way, or the way I prefer to do it, I like to actually see the parking waypoint here. It just makes it more concrete for me. So that's what page 21 starts talking about. If you are going to park and then walk to a few caches, you're going to want to put in parking coordinates. Now, how do you decide where to park? Well, in this example, if we go down here and look at the map, all those ones up by the state capitol, whoa, I want to walk to. Bear with me a minute here while I get zoomed in again. There we go. Oh, and by the way, looking on the map, do you see how the color matches the priority? Okay. So it would be pretty silly for me to try to drive to all those caches. It would be much better if I just parked, because I mean, this is a state capital. It's going to be a zoo. You know what parking's like in that area, in the area of any state capital. So you want to park the car and then start walking around to the different caches, okay? Now, how are you going to pick a parking place? Well, one thing, look at the caches that you think you should be walking to, and there's a reasonable chance one of them, hopefully some CO was nice and put parking coordinates on there. And in fact, we do have that. The Welcome to the Big Beehive has parking coordinates, and we are actually already added that there. Although I probably want to put that before the how you be, okay? Because check it out, there is how you be, that's waypoint number 3, and there's the parking coordinates. Another thing you can do, look at Google Maps and Street View and see, is there really, you know, a good parking spot there? Maybe pick a couple of parking spots, you know, your priority, your first choice, and then your second choice if the first one's full. It makes your life a little bit easier if you're in a city you don't know, if you plan your parking places during your trip planning rather than trying to do it on the fly, because you don't know the city, you don't know what it's going to be like. So put your parking coordinates in your trip.
Street View, in the drop-down menu of each geocache, there's a direct link to Street View for that geocache. Ah,
yes, that is true. So that this is what Carl is saying. So if we do how you be, and then down here, okay, there it is, show on Street View, and voila. So that is the Street View of the cache how you be, and I can tell you it's about where that guy in the black t-shirt's standing. It's down in those trees over there. So it's not perfect, but it kind of gives you an idea. But now I know, oh, hey, there's a lot of on-street parking here. So yeah, I should be able to find a parking place there. Okay, that works out. That's a good place to park. So the other thing I said I want to do is I want to move this parking coordinate to include how you be, save sorting. Okay. Now I park, I go get the caches, and hey, guess what? I would like to get back to my car. Imagine that. So I need to have that parking coordinate in there a second time, okay? And I do that, and you can do this with any of the waypoints. I can clone the waypoint, okay? And if I do that without doing an insertion point, it's going to put it way down at the bottom. So this is me remembering to do an insertion point after the last cache. So, you know, if I check my map down here, I want to do caches 4 through 7. And yeah, I'm going to refresh that in a minute anyways. Okay, so there's cache 7. So I'm going to put an insertion point right here. See how many clicked. Ah, I got it in the second try. All right, getting better. So I'm going to clone my parking coordinates and see how it inserted them right above the insertion point. Okay. All right, so game plan is I'm going to drive from here to this parking place, and then I'm going to start walking. So from the edit menu, remember that's the one that appears when you hover over the waypoint, I'm going to change the routing mode to a new walking route. Yes, Mary, you just double click on one of the numbers. As I mentioned earlier, part of my issue here is I have a new mouse and my double click finger is not quite, I don't have automatic behavior on it yet, so that's why it looks like I'm struggling a little bit. I'm sure you'll do better with a mouse that you're familiar with. Okay. So I change the first parking coordinate to a new walking route from here, and then the second parking coordinate I change to a new driving route from here. Okay. Now, it doesn't look any different, but if I refresh the trip, we'll see little icons that let me know I'm starting to walk from here, and then I pick back up driving here. Okay. And my ETAs will adjust for that as well. Okay.
And you should get new colors on the lines on the map at the bottom of
Yes.
the page.
Yes, and that is mentioned down on the bottom of page 22. Now, exactly what colors you're going to see might vary a little bit depending on your monitor settings and your degree of color blindness. But in general, a driving route is purple. Oops, and I have not ordered a new route, so we're not seeing the walking route yet. Hang on. Let's get that. And then when we order a new route, we'll be able to see this section here from waypoint 4 to waypoint 7 should turn to green. And then a biking route is a slightly different shade of green. That is mentioned on page 22 there. And we'll get to see it live in just a moment, maybe. All right, while we're waiting for that to update, let's go ahead and move on to page 23 and talk about adding questions for virtuals and earth caches. And then once I get the notification that the route's updated, I'll scroll down and show you guys the color differences. All right. So when we're visiting virtuals and earth caches, and honestly on other waypoints as well, we may want to have a little extra information show up here in the waypoint list, just like we're doing with the waypoint stops. Okay. So we can do it in two ways. One, we can put it into the comments. That's what's going on with these multi-waypoints here. Okay. And you can just click on it. And if you've gotten the information from the cache page, let me go click over to the cache page here. Okay. So what I need to do this is post a picture of yourself on the Capitol steps or get the word that's inscribed. Okay, so I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to post it, or excuse me, paste it back over here in the comment box. And FYI, do you see this tiny little corner over here? I can actually drag it, okay, to make the comment box bigger. And I've been told that only works in Chrome. I have not yet heard from anybody who is using a different browser. So if anybody's in a different browser and actually has a trip open and want to try that, let us know. Does it work in other browsers? What browser are you using? Are you able to expand the comment box? Okay, so I check it, and now we see the contents of the comment box on the waypoint. All right, we have a yes, it works in Opera. Okay, here's option number 2. From the drop-down menu, the very top item is description and print. Click that, and it opens up this cool little dialog box that has all kinds of formatting choices in there. If you click the copy cache description, it copies the cache description from the web page. Okay, so I don't need all of that information in there. I just want the questions. So I'm going to highlight that and delete the rest of that. I'm just going to basically edit it down so I only have the information that I want in order to solve the virtual. Okay, and I click save. Now look how this one shows up. Okay, this time I get a little icon that tells me there's a print description in there. Okay, but I do not see anything on the waypoint in the list. So, total personal preference thing. Okay, if you like it in the if you like the print description, that's going to show up in the app in the printout. If you like it in the comments, it will show up here on the screen in your trip as well in the list of waypoints, as well as on the printout and in the app. So
And
it's just a
option
personal
3.
preference. I'm sorry, what, Carl?
And option 3, that's a combination of different variation of option 1, is to actually click the blue eye, information eye at the end of the geocache to see the description and copy from there.
Okay. Well, that makes it easier than going over to the cache page as well. So then we could just copy it from here. Okay. And then paste it in to the comment box that way. Cool. So guys, I hope you're all picking up an important point here that, hey, I know Cachetur pretty well. I've planned a lot of trips with it, but there are so many different ways of getting things done in here. And Carl is such a wonderful resource because he knows them all. The man is a walking encyclopedia. Okay. So he's teaching me a few things as we go along here and getting all the information out to you guys. All right, we got our trip planned. We are ready to roll, and it is almost trip day. So we got to do just one more thing to execute the trip. In some way, shape, or form, we've got to take this trip with us. We've got to use it, and we've got 3 different ways. Now, it just depends on how you cache, okay? So, I'm sorry, Valena, I think I said that right. Valena, what he was talking about was on, you could click the info button, because what I had done is gone over to the cache page. I clicked on the GC number, opened the cache page and copied from there. Carl's point was if you hit the info button, you have the cache page right here and you can copy from there. It saves you from going over to a different tab. And then when you need to close that up and make it go away, you just click the blue button again. And he said it too. Okay, so it depends on how you cache. Do you cache with a phone or do you cache with a GPS? If you cache with a GPS, okay, we can get Cachetur to produce a GPX file. So we've gone through, we've picked all our caches, put them in order, and now we want to load that. We want to load those caches onto our GPS. We don't have to kick it back to GSAC or geocaching or anything else. We can do it straight from here. We go to the download export menu, create trip package. Okay, what do we want? If we want just something to, put on some form of Oregon or Delorme or Magellan or something. I should say Garmin, not Oregon. Whatever kind of handheld you have, you can create a GPX file for it. Also notice if you have a navigation GPS, you know, a Nuvi, a TomTom, all of those, you can also create files that can be loaded onto any of those kinds of devices as well. There's other options.
Garmin driving route is perfect for Nuvis and drive assists on your dashboard.
Okay.
It will point-to-point guide you through each and every geocache.
And if you have routable maps on your handheld, it would do the same. Okay, so, or if you don't have routable maps, you can use the track log, and that could be like a hiking device, but you could use it on roads as well. Okay, it just leaves the little breadcrumbs. So pick what you need is the bottom line. And then you click order. Okay, and so it's in queue, it's not ready yet. I had ordered one previously, so there it is. And then when I click the one that's ready for download, you get the normal little download file at the bottom of the window. And that is a zip file. And I'm guessing if you're used to loading a GPS, you know how to get the file out of that zip file and onto your GPS. Okay, so that's one option. Page 26 talks about printing it out in hard copy. Okay, so once again, we're in our trip. There is a print menu here. What do you want to print? So again, select all the stuff you want and then the practical things, how big's your paper, portrait, landscape, all that kind of stuff. This bottom drop down, it ends up being a pop-up instead of a drop down. How is it going to print? How much of the information for each waypoint do you want to print? And this can be kind of an involved decision. So try one, you know, just pick one, click print. It's not going to your printer yet. It just goes to another tab in your browser so you can see what that one looks like. It's like, oh, okay, that one's that. So then I can hit print again, and then I pick a different one. So I'm going to pick the GC version, print. Oh, that one looks like that. Okay, so go through, try the different ones. The idea of doing a little trial and error to see which one works best for you. There you go. And part of the reason there are so many, if you notice, some of them have caching names after them. That's because different people have requested, hey, I want one that looks like this, or I want one that has that. I got to admit, there probably isn't a lot of need for many more requests because that's covering a pretty large range. Click on them, see what works for you, okay? And then when you finally find the one that you like, okay, then you hit the print button up here, and that's the one that's going to send it to your printer, okay? Well, so Sherry, we're talking about printing in hard copy. If you want to send it to your Nuvi, that's where we do a trip package, and you want to do the Garmin driving route. Okay, that GPX file. Realize that these are all GPX files, but the waypoints GPX file, that's better for a handheld. Okay, the Garmin driving route, that's better for a Nuvi. The Garmin track log, that would probably be better on a handheld. And that's like if you turn on a track on your handheld when you're hiking and it leaves little breadcrumbs, that's what you're getting back. It's going to show you the route that Cachetur did. And if you do have routable software, it'll show up on that. Okay. Okay, and while we were looking at that, we got the new route, and also our trip package is ready. So we have the notifications there, but let's look at the route. Let's look at the color difference. So I'm going to refresh this. In worlds of feature requests, one thing I've always wished is after I refresh the page, the map would stay at the same zoom level I had it before. Minor quibble, but you can start seeing what I was talking about. The driving route is purple, okay? And then the route going to the walking caches is green. And if you are colorblind, then there are no other caches on the screen except the routing ones. So the line, I'm sorry, the walking ones, the line that connects the caches you're seeing on the screen is green. And then the line that's coming up here on Capitol Road and going to the parking place, that's purple. But hopefully you at least see a color difference between those two lines. Okay.
Just a small tip, I just realized whenever you refresh the web page, on the top, there are short links that takes you directly to the map or the statistics, whatever. So you don't have to scroll.
Jump down. This is what Carl's talking about, you guys up here. And that would just jump down to the map. And as you can tell, I usually forget that those are there. But that's still not going to help with the zoom level. That's my issue. I want it to stay at the same zoom level. So if I zoom in that far, when I refresh the page, I want it to be that again. Okay. So Mary's just asking about using it with a Nuvi. Rich, don't you use some kind of car navigator?
No, I don't. I go strictly with Cachly on an iPhone and let the navigation with car
that's
be
right.
done by Google or Apple Maps.
Okay. Carl, do you? Does anybody use that export? Because I'm with Team Demp. I usually, what we're going to next, where we do it in the app. Okay. So Laura's used it successfully with a Nuvi.
I actually requested that feature, the Garmin Route GPX, because of I had to create it manually for my drive assist. But it's really helpful when you're out caching alone on long drives, because I basically tell my sat-nav to tell me the time of my next waypoint, so it routes me. It shows me also on my sat-nav when I'm gonna be at the next waypoint, and yeah.
Okay, so you're essentially navigating simultaneously on 2 devices. So.
3.
Of course you are, Carl.
On my dashboard, in my car, in my front windshield, I have my drive assist, I have my Garmin Montana, and I also have the Cachetur app on my phone, readily available.
Okay.
Plus a printout in the car passenger seat.
Okay. And yeah, Scott, I'm with you. The Nuvi doesn't get you close enough, but keep in mind, if you are pulling the Cachetur route in and you have parking coordinates in your trip, then the Nuvi will definitely get you to your parking coordinates. You just have to get those set up, and once you get out of the car, then you use either your phone or your GPS. So think about putting parking coordinates into your trip in order to make it work better with the Nuvi. You guys who use like so many different devices, when I go caching and I'm in my car, I use one device. I use my phone, and I'm about to show you how I do that. Okay, so let's do it. Let's go to page 27 and talk about caching with our phone. I'll switch apps here. All right, well, we're going to see how many times I use my mouse and try and click on my phone. The phone image doesn't work that way. Okay. Yeah, I've seen the picture of his setup. Okay, so there is an app. This is one thing, we really emphasize to people that Cachetur is not an app, it's a website. But there is an app that uses the trip you set up on the website. Okay, and you can see it down here in the lower left. Okay, that's the Cachetur app. Download it from wherever you normally get your apps from. It is called the Cachetur Trip Assistant. Okay, not to be confused with the Cachetur Assistant that we're looking at on the websites. Once you have it installed, tap it. Go ahead and log in. It'll come up to a login screen. I've already logged in. And then I have no trips downloaded. At this point, I can tap download trips or the cloud. Either one will connect to the trips I have in my Cachetur account, and I can choose which one I want to download. I just tap it. It whirs and grinds momentarily, and then it changes to a check. I go back, and then I tap it from there. I could actually tap it on the other screen too, but either way, open the trip is the point. And then once you open it, you're seeing all the caches that are in your trip, all the waypoints that are in your trip, I should say. And you see the priorities. You see the ETAs as they were in your trip originally. Now let's go look at one of these. Okay, so I tap it, and it gives me the estimated arrival, estimated departure, and we just have some information about it. Down at the bottom of the screen are kind of the important buttons here. And this is what we're talking about. If you simply tap map, it takes it to whatever your default navigation program is, okay? If you long press, so hold it down, whatever navigation apps you have installed on your phone, I only have 2, okay? I have an iPhone, obviously. You can pick from them. So somebody was asking about, oh, I didn't know you could send it to Waze. If you have Waze installed on your phone, that would be an option here. And if it's your default navigation, then when you just tap map, it'll automatically kick it over. So then you can do driving navigation through that app. The open button, same thing, you can tap or long press and you'll get different options. So if I do a tap, I go to Cachly, okay? And then what I normally do is in Google Maps, I'll have the driving directions, and here in Cachly, I'll tap the direct route. So that way I can flip between the two. And I also have Apple CarPlay, so it comes up on my screen. And no, Cachly doesn't use Apple CarPlay yet. So I can have the Google Maps showing on my big screen in my car, and then I can go back to my phone when I'm starting to get close and I want to look at the direct navigation. So that's just my preference. You come up with your way of doing it, but at least now you know the buttons to use. And then here's what the long press looks like. So I can open it in Cachly, the caching app, or one of the 2 websites, geocaching.com or Cachetur. So that can help. A lot of people often want to go to the website and see it, or get into Messenger or something. So that's another way to do it rather than from your caching app.
I think every geocaching app that uses the geocaching API that you have installed on your phone will show up there.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
No,
what
it
I was
doesn't
talking
support
about,
CGO, but...
Yeah. Oh, so CGO does not show up there.
I don't believe so, no.
Okay.
Because we're doing API partners.
Yeah, it is not an official app. Well, it is not an official API partner, as Carl just said. So, okay. And by the way, I should point out that even though I'm demonstrating this on an iPhone, it looks pretty similar on an Android. I don't think there would be that much difference if I could get an Android phone up here side by side and show you. The notes button, that gets you into some of the more advanced features of the app that I don't want to get into a lot of detail here, but as you can see, you can check off the photo, whether or not you took a photo here. You can type in your notes. So if you are doing a virtual or an Earth cache, you could type in your answers here. And then you can use that in the logging section that we're going to get to soon. And you could, if you don't have Signal, you can just hit save and it will save it. And then when you get home, you can do the save and upload, and it'll upload everything. Okay.
But before you do that, where it says unattempted, there's a drop down where you can change it to found it, DNF.
Mm-hmm. So you can do your logging in here. Okay. Yeah. And again, it's a personal preference thing. It's just where do you want to keep your data? Okay. Just be aware that stuff's in there. When I get the advanced class set up, we're going to go through that in a lot more detail. But I know on first glance, a lot of people don't want to get into that. Okay, they just want to stick with, you know, use this as a navigation thing, but it's there. If you want to explore it, I know we've got some advanced users in here. Hey, explore it, see what you can do. All right, and let me show you this. Here are the ones that I put in. So that one was the comment that I put in as a comment. This is the one I did as description and print. One's got a white background, one's got a yellow background. You can copy from both. So all I did was long press on the description, and that way, sometimes it kind of depends on what I'm doing. If I'm on a business trip or a caching trip, I'll go ahead and send the answers from site. You know, I'll copy that from here, go over to the official app and use Messenger and just send the answers right away. If I'm going to log later on, you know, and want to send all the answers, so I don't make the COs nuts, I normally send the answers, send the log, send the answers, send the log, rather than send the answers on site and send the log a week later.
Also, if you hit the 3 dots, you can see all the geocaches on the same map.
Yes, and that can come in handy. I know Rich and I both have a tale about being out of signal, and we had both forgotten to download maps within Cachly. We're both Cachly users, and gone, after saying many bad words, we thought about this feature here, and then we were able to navigate using the map inside of Cachetur. Okay, so Gail's making the comment about the difference in navigation between the way it routes on within Cachetur and then using Google or Apple Maps or Waze. Yes, you're right, Gail. Remember that the Cachetur site is using Grasshopper, and Grasshopper is using OSM maps. So it is possible that OSM doesn't have all the streets because people haven't put them in there. It doesn't have all the information. Google routing is definitely better. Okay, there's no two ways about it. And that's why you want to route using Google or Apple. Apple has improved, you know, whatever your preference is, it's probably going to be a little bit more accurate in most cases than routing via the OSM maps and using Grasshopper. Okay, so that's just something to realize, and it's usually to your advantage. Those of us who use the app, one thing we enjoy is you know, trying to beat it. So we built in that 5 minutes at every cache. You know, it's like, can we stay ahead of time? And what do I mean by that? Well, so let's go back into one of these caches, and I haven't talked about the arrived and departed buttons up at the top. You don't have to hit both of them. It's a personal preference thing. Are you going to hit arrived when you first get there on site, or is the last thing that you do with that cache hit departed here? You know, so hit one of them. I'm going to hit departed. Okay, and can you see? Look at it here, number 4. So it updated it. It crossed out my estimated, my ETA. Okay, and it updated it for the time that I push the button at, and then all the other times are now based off of that. Rather than the ETA I put in when I set up my trip, it's based off of what actual time it is. And notice down here at the bottom, it lets me know how far ahead or behind schedule I am. And because this trip is for a different date, it tells me that I'm thousands of hours ahead of schedule. Woohoo! Okay, but it's a fun thing. You want to kind of keep it in the green. If it gets yellow, that means you're starting to get a little behind schedule. If it gets red, you're way behind schedule. Okay, so it's just a fun game. I know I enjoy doing that. Do you guys do that too? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So let's see. Have I hit everything about the app? I think I have. I think most people are just kind of like, there's an app. Because that whole time factor, that's the big one here. Trying to be able to stay on time, and the app and that updating ETA really helps you do that. I always end up in the red. Of course, Carl. Yeah, I know. Spend a lot of time taking pictures. Okay, so the question came up, how do you delete an app? Swipe to the left. Okay. And if you've made changes on the site, you can hit the refresh to download those changes, or if you want to get rid of it, delete. Okay. And I'm going to cancel just in case. Yes, when you click departed, it gets grayed out. So let's go back here. And I'll show you, so I hit departed on upstate. So now if we zoom in there, and there, that one is upstate. See how the little ghosty is grayed out now? Yeah, exactly, Maureen. So it gives you an idea of, what do you have to do? And oh, here, look at the colors. Okay, so the blue is the part of the route that I've already completed, and the green is a part of the route I've yet to do. Or it'll be purple if it's a driving route, same as before. Blue just means you've completed that part of the route.
If your friends and you also, this is in geocaching.com settings, it should probably come up at a more advanced class, but there is a setting in there to share your information with the API partners.
Mm-hmm.
If your friends have found one of the caches in your trip in the app, it should say that Tom Frey has found this cache before, or whatever, to help you if you get stuck.
Yeah, and this is my demo account, so I actually don't have the setting turned on to show that within Cachetur, even though I've enabled it on the geocaching side. Oh, we've made another believer in the app over here. Okay. All right, and then Rich's point about clearing ETAs, you can tap that button. Okay, and it takes out all the ETA overrides. Now, notice from number 4 on, it did not take them out. Okay, because I had already said I'm there. That's my time. You can play with the enable speak status on arrive. I left that on for about 2 caches, and then I was ready to throw my phone out the window. So, but you try it, you might like it. There's the upload buttons. So if you've been making notes along the way. Okay. All right. Any other questions on the app? What is a checkpoint? Rich, I know that came from some work that you did, and I'm going to let you explain that one. This is what the question is about. Where is the checkpoint? There's checklist. I know there's a checkpoint here somewhere. Go ahead, Rich, talk.
I think the checkpoint's over on the website. You have to have set it probably before it shows up in the app. I think it was used to make sure you got to an event on time. Okay. Put a hard stop marker on that it would work against. People who wanted to cache until it was time to get to their event, kind of thing.
So give us a practical example. Yeah, set as checkpoint. There it is.
I believe I think you also should be able to do it in the app on the 3 dots on a.
That's what I thought, but I'm not seeing it. Am I being blind? I don't see it here. Because I thought there was a way to change the checkpoint.
Go into the waypoint. Enter the waypoint.
Right, okay. Waypoint.
Okay, and then those 3 dots. There's the set checkpoint.
Okay, so you can make a checkpoint there. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the last waypoint we get to before an event. I mean, give us a practical example. How would you use that, Rich? Because that's not something that I've used.
It came up, as I recall, and got added in the context of I want to do as many as I possibly can and still make it to my event on time.
Okay.
As I recall.
So at what point would you hit set as checkpoint? I know you could do it ahead of time, but you're out on the road, you know, you're looking, oh, do I have time to get these? When do I hit it?
Trying to remember if I've actually, only context I've used it in as an event, and it's not gonna juggle things past it's not gonna change your route because the app can't do that.
Okay.
You know, some people actually wanted it to move when they got close to their event time to move things down after the event and stuff. That's just not going to happen.
Right. You can also use it for
more of a notification kind.
Okay, go ahead, Carl.
You can also use it for ferries, or if, say, a geocache is inside a museum that has a closing time, you have to be there before 5 p.m. or whatever. So
it was
okay.
largely a reminder of a fixed time event that you just got to be aware of.
Okay.
Like ferry, missing the ferry is not fun.
No. No. And see, that's another one where I would tend to do it in the trip. You know, I'd set an ETA at my ferry time. You know, what time do I need to pull in there? And you know, we didn't really make that point because there's not a lot of ferries here. You know, we've got a few folks from Washington State. You guys have to deal with ferries, but if you were dealing with ferries, you want to be sure to set, you know, your departure, what time is that ferry leaving, and then set your arrival, because, you know, hey, what time the ferry docks, that might be what's on the schedule. It's going to be kind of close to that, maybe, depends on the weather. But then they've got to unload the ferry, you know, and if you're at the back of the pack, you probably need to add extra time. So think about doing what I did with the parking waypoint here and putting ETAs on that arrival, you know, the ferry docks kind of waypoint too, and that'll help keep you on schedule. Or you can use the set checkpoint. Again, different ways.
Are you having a flight during the trip, so you need to catch the check-in at the airport, trains? Yeah, can be used for all sorts of things.
Yeah, in Malta last summer, I took the ferry schedule timings roughly around when I wanted to get back from the island and posted them all in my comments on the cache so that I could look and see, oh, I'm not going to make that one, but I can aim for that one.
Okay. Yeah, and that's a great use of comments. Or, you know, here's just an extra little tip. You can actually upload files. So if you had a PDF file of the ferry schedule, you can upload that and it would be part of your trip. Now you can't download a PDF onto your phone, so that's why Rich's suggestion of putting in a comment is useful. But if you want to have that ferry schedule so you don't have to go find the proper link every single time, you can save it as a PDF and it will be part of your trip on the site.
So just to try to decipher Valenia's questions, because he is confused as to where you would put the checkpoint. You put the checkpoint, or you use a checkpoint on a certain waypoint that you have to be at a certain given time.
So if you were heading for an event, Valenia, you would put it, you'd make the event, you'd set a checkpoint on the event or on your ferry departure or whatever that thing is. Okay. Okay. And then let's talk about the hamburger menu. In most apps, this is a 3-line menu, which many developers, as I learned, call a hamburger menu. And Tomfra, the joker that he is, actually made it a picture of a hamburger. So, whoop, hang on, let me get back to my phone here. So if I tap the hamburger, which is on the upper left, okay, that opens that menu. And there's a few cool things in here that I want to point out to you. If you hit events, then this is going to show you all of the events within a certain range from you, and that's in your settings on Cachetur that it's getting that information from, what the range is. Okay, so this is really cool. I travel a fair, well, I used to travel a fair amount for business. If I was in a city I didn't know, you know, I'm like, oh, I wonder if there's an event. I could just hit that button and I don't have to do any searching or anything on geocaching. It just shows me nearby events. Okay.
That's an online requirement though, right? You have to be online to do that.
Yes, you do have to be connected to data. Yes, you are correct. Okay. And then the sunrise, sunset, when you're doing the, oh God, do I have time to get that? I don't have a light with me. Can I get it before the sun sets? You can see, as soon as I get rid of the pop-up box, when the sun's setting, when the sunrise is happening in excruciating detail. Okay. You know, how dark or light will it be? One thing I've often asked is, can we get a tide table in there as well? I think that might be a little bit too much data. There we go. Okay, so you have that in the hamburger menu as well. There's the RV sites. You can also see those on the website, and so that you can actually see something, let me do that from the website. So under Tools, RV sites, and this is going to show all of them worldwide. This is mainly from one of our other ambassadors. It's Corsock, right? Or is it Gorgonmeister?
It's Gorgon Vaktmäster, yeah.
Oh, Gorgon Vaktmäster. Excuse me. All right.
Gorgon the janitor.
Got it. So he is a big RVer, and he is responsible for most of these sites. The very few sprinkling that you see in the US, and I think number 13 up there, maybe in Canada, somewhere over there in Nova Scotia, I think. Okay, so, you know, since we are filled with Americans and Canadians here today, gang, you can help build this part of the site. You can go to RV sites and register a new RV site and put in the information, okay? And the idea is to help you find places to stay. So if we can build this up, it will be far more useful to you when you go into the app and you hit nearby RV sites. So you're out on the road and you just want to find a spot really quick. This will help narrow it down for you, so you're not Googling. It's like, oh, where can I set up my tent tonight? Okay, so help us build that part of the site and put information in there. All right, I think that's all I want to tell you about the apps, unless you guys had any other questions about the app. Okay, then let us turn our attention to after the trip. This is page 30, or I'm sorry, page 29. So I'm going to use a different trip here because we need to use the post-trip assistant. The post-trip assistant appears after the trip has begun. So if you have a multi-day trip, it's going to be a week. The day that the trip begins, the post-trip assistant button, this little guy right here, will be available. And it will always be available on all ended trips. So that's what I did. I went into an ended trip so that you can see that button. And let's click it and see what it does. Okay. So this is kind of all the after the fact stuff. Now, if I had kept notes in my phone in the app and I uploaded them to the site, I'd start seeing them here. This is where they'd come through. Okay. If in whatever app I'm using, and like I said, I use Cashly. Okay, if I try to create a log, see the item that's green here, save as draft? Okay, that's gonna save it to my drafts on geocaching.com. If you're using the official app, see there's a little switch down there. Okay, the difference between that switch being on or not when you hit send, is it going to actually send the log, or is it just going to put it in drafts? So for those of you who may never have worked with drafts from your phone, this is what I'm talking about. It puts it into drafts, okay? Now, some people actually do their logging from here. So you can click on it and then you could log. Now, here's the thing. If you like to write longer logs, this doesn't save it. So if you get interrupted, you know, you got to hit post and then I guess you could edit it later. But once they're in drafts, okay, and by the way, those of you using a GPS, you know, you can upload, if I scroll down, or upload drafts, there it is. I could upload a GPX file and see it's going into my navigator. Upload GPX or text. I'm sorry, I lied, not GPX, that came out wrong. I was holding a GPS, so I lost my mind. You know, the geocache visits file, you could upload that. And I know a lot of you who use a GPS, you already know how to upload your geocache visits file. Now, on the Cachetur side, once you have your logs from your phone in your app, or if you've uploaded the geocache visits file, then you can import drafts from geocaching.com. Okay. And by the way, if you are using a GPX, those words do not want, if you're using an object similar to this one right here, you can also upload that geocache visits file here in the field notes, so you don't have to go through drafts. But if you're a phone cacher, send it from your app to geocaching drafts, and then you're going to import your geocaching drafts. And same thing we've seen in several other places in the site. We can check here and get all our drafts, or we can check the individual drafts. You can do a shift click, you know, just select a range of drafts. These are the ones that we want to copy into our post-trip assistant for this trip. Okay, so it lets me know the selected logs have been imported. And I scroll down a little bit to the log section. It's possible that it'll come in like that, where the log section is hidden. Just hit show and I'll expand it and show you the drafts. Okay, now you could start logging. You could hit found it and it'll take you into the log screen for that particular cache. Or if you're a picture taker and you got a whole mess of pictures, then before you start logging, hit logs again, you know, same place we went to import, do upload pictures in bulk. This is many people's favorite tool on the logging tool here in Cachetur. And Tamfra, the developer of Cachetur, he is a big picture taker. So he created this tool to a large extent for his own use, but the rest of us are pretty darn grateful for it. Okay, so I have some pictures here, and I'm just going to highlight the pictures I want to bring in, and then I drag them into this box. See, as I hover over it, see how it says copy? So it's just going to copy those in there, and then it's going to upload. It'll take a moment to upload them. You'll see the check appear. Just takes a minute to get there. Do. Sorry guys, my internet's being slower than usual here. That's why I only did a few pictures. Okay, now we're good. So now I click next step, and you're gonna love this. Everybody does. Oh, wait a minute, this one's still uploading. Come on. All right, well, even if that one doesn't end up coming through, this should be enough to make the point. Okay. So now check it out. Based on the time, oh, it did come through. It just didn't show the check. That's weird. Based on the times on the pictures and the time that I clicked find in the app, it assigned the pictures to the logs. How cool is that? And once you have them in there and you're looking at them, you know, make sure all the pictures are associated with the right logs. And, you know, I look at, oh, wait a minute. That one, that doesn't belong with that cache. Oh, you know, so I can drag it. You know, that's random picture from an event that I accidentally added. So I can say, you know, put that down there it's not attached to any log. Okay. And I can move these around. Oh, these two, oh, I guess I forgot to hit find on one of them because that actually goes with that cache. So you can drag them around. And then once you're in here, you can also type your picture. Okay. You know, let's see, bendy tree. Okay. And just put in your descriptions, go through and work with each of the pictures. Okay. Once you get that all set up, do not forget to hit save. Otherwise, all your changes, anything you've done where you've rearranged it or any descriptions you've typed will not be saved. And you're going to be really mad at yourself if you had a ton of pictures. So be sure you hit save. Yes, it's using the EXIF data, XIF data. And that's actually, you may have noticed that this is a demo file. So I actually very deliberately dummied up the times both on the caches and the pictures so that they line up. And every now and then, you know, if you're not, I've seen weird things happen where they don't line up. And it will also use, if you have the GPS information on your camera, be it your phone or a regular camera, it will use it based on that as well. So if you're walking and you're finding caches that are relatively close together, it's not just the time, it's the location as well.
And also if you use on the picture description, you press the bracket, what is it now? Alt-G7, I believe, and type in cache code and brackets and not the parentheses, but the brackets like in the FTF log.
Right. So if you do curly brackets or square brackets?
Yeah, curly brackets.
Got it. You got to speak American, Carl.
Yeah, sorry. I think it's enough with Norwegian, Swedish, Danish, German.
Okay.
Swearing in Polish and Russian.
Now you're just showing off. All right, what am I supposed to put inside the curly brackets?
Cache code.
Okay, so the GC number?
No. CACH.
Oh, the words, cache code. Gotcha. And get rid of that G.
It should. Yeah, you need both C's to be capital letters. Then it will add the GC number to the picture.
Okay. Well, but it's on the log for that picture.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, somebody has wanted to do that.
It's a dummy description.
Gotcha. Okay. And there are other placeholders. I know somewhere in here there's a way to pull up a list of different placeholders. So get it set up however you want. And then I hit save. And it will let me know it's moving the pictures to their logs so that they're gone. But notice if I scroll back down to the bottom, the one that I had not attached to any log, it's going to be there in perpetuity on this trip. So, and there is no way to delete from the screen. I know I was frustrated with that. If I want to delete a picture that I've uploaded, I need to attach it to a cache and then delete it when it's on the cache. Now I want to get back to actually doing the logs, okay? So the fastest way to get back to the logs is to hit the drop down by your name in the upper right and click backlog. Okay, that takes me to all my logs that I need to write. be aware that the backlog is across trips. This is everything. So if you're one of those people like me who can get really behind on logging, this will show all your logs in order. If you want to see the logs just from a particular trip, you need to go back into that trip and go to the post-trip assistant just for that one trip. Okay. All right, now let's look at actually logging. So if I click on the log type, you can see that's the one that's blue. That's where the link is. Okay, this is your log screen. And it's kind of divided into quadrants. There's 4 parts to it. So the box up here is where you can write your log. It is expandable. Okay, you've got all the little emoticons down here. Okay, you can put in some TBs if you want. The pictures that we just attached show up here. If you have just a couple pictures where you don't want to go through the bulk upload, then you can upload individual pictures in the log page. Okay. Down below the log area, there is the cache page. Okay. Over on the right, we have 3 different map views. The top one is Street View if it's available. So that just means this one is too far from the road. And let me click through because I know there's one in here somewhere that does actually show it. Most of these are kind of out in the boondocks. There we go. There's one. So it'll show you Street View. It shows you Google Maps. And then this one is supposed to be leaflet, although I think it looks like it's set for Google Maps right now. And you can change what this lower one is by setting that. And Carl confirmed this. I've never asked before, but I think this map layer, that's actually tied to the map layer in geocoding, isn't it? If I change it in one place, it changes it in the other.
I've never really given it any thought.
Okay. Because I think that's true, because I prefer it set here to the OpenStreetMaps, and then I'm often surprised when it's at Google. I'm like, oh, wait, I use Geocoder and set Geocoder for Google Maps, and then it seems to change. So I think those two are connected. That's at least my hypothesis. Okay. And then down below the maps, you see the last 10 logs. And the purpose of this setup is so that you can kind of remember finding that cache and write a decent log about it, you know, to reward the CO for their work of putting it out there. Write good logs, thank the COs. The only way you have of thanking them is your log. Okay, and then as you saw what I did, you click save and next until you get through all of them. And then on the last one, you lose the save and next button, you just have a save. So you hit save on that. Now you need to go back to your backlog again, and you've got to go to the backlog this time. Okay, now we're ready to publish. So once again, we check the ones that we want to publish, or, you know, do a shift click and select a bunch of them. From the drop down, change the status from draft to publish. Click set status for the caches we just checked. And then when you're ready to publish, hit start publishing. When it's done, you'll get the little notification up by the bell there.
If you click the back arrow on your browser, Chris.
Yes.
Just click back a couple of times.
Okie doke.
And stop there.
Okay.
Instead of going to your menu on top right, you can also click backlog.
Yeah, there's the backlog button there. I knew that. I was testing you.
Okay.
Oh, let's see. And Team Demp has a good question here. The times, my experience is that they work out. Oh, Rich is saying that he thinks it gets mangled. I've had positive experience with it. There was a point at which geocaching had issues with time, and anything that you put through there could kind of be a mess.
Anything that was posted to geocaching.com was set to Seattle time, I think, and some caches had, yeah, there was something with time zones that were messed up.
But I think it's okay now. Wendy, I know you worked with that. You want to, if you have an answer to that, Wendy, do you want to say something? She was over there sleeping. She's now scrambling for her mic. And one other thing I can say, David. Oh, oh, there she is. Wendy, I think you have some experience in dealing with the time mess that occasionally happens when you brought drafts through. Can you speak to David's question about does the time get messed up?
Okay, hi there, David. No, the only time I've had a problem with times is Adventure Lab times seem to be in GMT no matter what you do. That's all I know.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Wendy. Sorry to catch you off guard there. I thought you had dealt with that.
I was in the kitchen and my husband said, she's talking to you. Anyway, thanks.
Sure. And gang, I'm not just throwing some random attendee under the bus there. Wendy is another one of our ambassadors. So that's why I feel okay asking her for help. I
actually got it on another area here that the timing issues with geocaching.com has been fixed some time ago.
Okay, that was my impression too. Now I know David does have a significant amount of experience with Cachely and has probably looked at this. But David, as I've said, I've been doing drafts the way I just showed probably for over a year now, as long as we've had logging available. And there was a point where I know there was a hiccup, but it's been fine. You know, I'd say at least, yeah, definitely all of last fall, it was fine. Okay. Well, and that might be it. And David, if you do feel like you're having an issue in the post-trip assistant, okay, the upload, that is set up. If you do pick geocache visits, and because I know you use Cachely, if you export a file, a text file from Cachely, it exports in the geocache visits format. So you could upload it directly here and never have to go through geocaching. Okay, so if that corrects any problem you might be having, you might want to look into that. Okay. And let's see. Okay, yeah, so I think we hit the end of the logging process there. We got anything else on logging? All right. Well then, the last thing we have going on here is we've given you a lot of information today, but you might want to, you know, once you start planning your own trips, it's like, oh, what was that she said? You know what? Wait, I didn't write that one down. And you might need a little bit more help, or maybe you are interested in some of those things we've alluded to. You know, there's more options out there. Well, what are the options? I'm ready for those. So if you want to get in touch with Cachetur, you can on the website. And let me show this as I talk about it. There's the drop down. Okay. And you can go to the Help Center, of which Carl was the primary author. Okay. Both in Norwegian and English. And you can do search. You can search for topics. There's also the menu over here on the left. If you can't find your answer, you can also send a message to Cachetur, and this
if you
opens a support ticket. Yep.
Sorry, if you zoom out a little bit on your screen now, on the Cachetur main page.
Got it. Zoom out a little. Okay.
Then you got the search menu up there, and you can search for, say, insertion, like insertion point. Insertion.
Oh, insertion.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
It's my English. Press enter.
It's my Norwegian.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you search on Cachetur, you will get directly to the Help Center article.
So that saves you a step, and you can get right in there. Okay. And there's a lot of good information in here. Carl really did a great job on that. And others have been going in and tweaking. As you can see, Rich has contributed to this one. Well, actually, you can't see that. I just know that's his icon.
The problem with that page is that I write it, and just 2 minutes after I've written up the article, Humphrey has done a little bit slight change on the page, so the menu has gotten a new word or whatever. But
that is a true statement. He slowed down a little bit. He's been a little bit busy lately, but yeah, he keeps it updated. So then there is also the Facebook group, the user forum. And I know a lot of you are from there. Okay. And then if any of you are Slack users, Cachetur does have a channel, and it's Cachetur.no without the period. Okay, just all together. You can see it on the back of the workbook. The last page of the workbook has the different items on there. And, you know, there's the contribute button. You can see the thermometer over here, the circle thermometer, such as it is. Cachetur is a free site for everybody. There's no paywalls, no ads. It runs basically on the NPR model. For those of you who are Americans, you understand that. You know, nobody gets any extra privileges if they chip in, and it is just a small fraction of the users who are actually supporting the site. So if you think this place is cool, we'll help keep the lights on. Okay, I have hit the end of the scheduled material. So do you have any questions about anything we have covered? Or if you just want to tell me some things you'd like to see in the future for that advanced class I'm planning. And while you guys are typing, oh, thank you, David. That means a lot coming from you, because I know you've worked really hard on learning this site. Yes, huge thanks to my support team out there. It was so great to have Rich and Carl back up, because I might be the trainer, that's my expertise, but these guys, they know the site.
I just got a private message from Mike McKenzie. Is there a way to let me scroll back up before he went away. Is there a way to suggest new templates? Templates
Yes.
are user created.
Yes, absolutely. So if you go into trip templates, okay, right there, create new trip template. You hit that button, okay, and it gives you some suggestions on how you can do it. So you can create a new trip, and then there's a button within the trip where you can make that a template. And then one of us has to approve it. We just go through and we do things like no corrected coordinates in trip templates. Better templates have more comments, you know, things that are going to help somebody that looks at that template use it down the road. In fact, let me go into one of those Seattle templates. Whoops, I'm sorry. Because that Seattle template is actually Tamfra's. And even though it is in Norwegian, the descriptions and things, this is the top of the line trip template. Okay.
Try his San Francisco one. I think it's in English.
Okay. Which one, Rich?
Try the
Should
left
be
one.
a day.
Okay, so there we go. All right, so this one's in English and also by Tamfra, and you can see that he's got pictures in here. I told you he was a picture guy. Okay, there are the waypoints that are part of the trip. You see how he has descriptions on here. Okay. That one's a lot shorter than the Seattle one.
Yeah.
Okay. And just other information. So that's a good template. So if you're just trying to help somebody get around, You can try that. Let me show you. If you have something to do with a Geotour or GeoTrail, I strongly encourage you to create a template.
Not just a Geotour or a trail. It could be that you're an organization that's hosting a big event, put out many templates around the area, everything to spark interest for
there's
people
many
to visit.
reasons to make a template, but if you have Geotour or GeoTrail, then do this. Make a template out there, but for any reason, anytime you're trying to attract attention and you want to get people to a certain group of caches. Here's one that Carl actually made. This is the Butler Trail. You guys were at Geo Woodstock 2 years ago? Yeah, did you eat a lot of donuts? I know I did. Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah, and on, say, the Butler County Donut Trail there, that is created from one direction, but as we learned earlier today, you can change the route by stating where you're going to start and have Cachetur reroute everything for you.
Yes. So the templates, although they do have a route built into them, they can also just be, you know, a list of templates. Sorry, I'm setting up for the drawing here. Go ahead, keep asking questions. Oh boy. I have a setting that I keep meaning to change in Excel and I keep forgetting about it.
I'm guessing that you're gonna exclude us ambassadors.
Well, I'm not going to go through the trouble of doing that. Why do I have weird?
You draw us, draw again.
Huh? Oh, that is right. Okay. Yep. If I accidentally draw one of you guys, will draw again. Okay. Right. All right. So here we go. And the random number is between 1 and 71. And drum roll, the winner is number 30, who is Paula, a fish out of water. Congratulations. You are the winner of the Cashkins. Is Paula still there? Speak up, Paula. Are you here? If she's not here, I'll draw again. Oh, no, she's there. Paula Couples. Congratulations. You are a winner.
Woohoo!
So Paula, shoot me a private message. You can either do it here or through geocaching, and send me your address and I will drop that in the mail to you. Okay. Well, gang, that is it.
I saw a comment further up about multi-day trips being daunting.
Yes, I saw that, and that is definitely something that we will
yeah, but it's not that much different from a single day. It's basically just the same.
Yeah, so you just break it into sub-trips and do each one like you're doing a single day trip.
And I know I'll give you guys this, I won't make you wait for the advanced class all the way here, but the biggest tip I have for you is go ahead and put and route all of the caches in one day and then break it out into sub-trips. Don't try to say, well, I want this one on this day, and then you end up having time differences and it shifts. So plan it all out and then break it afterwards. So break it in your parent trip. And there is a way.
Also, on a support note, I've seen if you go into your trip again, please, Chris.
Yep. So
I just know that many people.
Let me finish my point, because I was going to point out that you can create sub-trips, and that's just going to break it by day, but it's going to break it at midnight. So it may not be perfect, but it's a starting point. Okay, and again, more to come on that in the advanced class. Okay, go, Carl.
Edit trip info. And trip info.
Yep.
On the main page. Many people, when they start planning, they plan a trip for tomorrow, but it's going to be next week. So when you finally come to the trip and they're still planning it, but the trip is locked because the start time has passed, check the time is not decided. If you don't know when to do it, this will mark the trip as a draft, meaning that time won't expire. And please, before you remove the draft mark, change the date to when you're gonna start it, because you can end up with the trip being locked because the time has passed. If that happens, send in a support request with the trip ID and we can unlock it for you, so not all is lost.
Okay, so that's just a support trip from Carl, because I know I see that a lot in the support thread where somebody has accidentally ended a trip before they took it. So use draft while you're still working on it, or just set it for a date that's way out. Now I see it in the chat, a lot of people are saying they got to go and that sort of thing. Y'all, thank you so much for coming out. If you got to go, go. Those of you who want to hang out and chat, we can definitely do that. I promised you an open mic Q&A here at the end. So that is the segment that we are moving into. But thank you so much for everybody who came out, and thank you to Rich and Carl for supporting me in this endeavor. Go plan a trip, have fun, go caching. All right, hit us with questions. Paula, you had said something about learning more about Tampermonkey. There really isn't anything more to Tampermonkey. You install Tampermonkey, you install the Cachetur Assistant. If you're having trouble with that, please let us know. I think that was Paula. Okay.
David was asking a question here about logging. Yeah, you can add unplanned caches to the Cachetur trip log.
Yes.
Bonus caches.
You can do that either if you have if they're in your logs from your app, then they'll automatically come in. But if you want to add them here, there is a button for add a bonus cache. And then you just type in the GC code and it'll pull that in. So you can add a cache that way as well.
And I think you can also do it from the backlog, if I don't remember wrong.
I suspect you are probably right, Carl. Come on. There we go.
The speak status is basically your phone will tell you you're 4 hours behind schedule, if you're me.
It's obnoxious as all get out, but please try it on your own. You know how your friend says it takes, oh, this is awful, here, try it. Some people like it. That's why he put it in there. Yep, that's exactly where I am, David. It's like, okay, that's cool. I'm done with that. You guys can open your mic if you want.
It's open.
And also,
I assume you're going to put lists in the advanced class.
Yeah, well, hey, I need to finish writing it first.
Well, I mean, it's a whole topic area.
Just wing it.
Because I think the adventure labs that various and sundry ambassadors created for the megas all reside over in lists somewhere.
They reside where? I'm sorry, Rich?
I think they're over in lists rather than templates.
I know when I do it, I put it in as a template.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe they are. Look at the Yuma Mega
Okay.
ones.
Yeah, so there's 2 lab. Oh, there's actually only 1 adventure lab in there. The other one is just pulling the word label.
Yeah.
So
I think
Northern
they were in
Virginia.
lists.
And I'm willing to bet that one is
some
probably
people
Play-Doh Addict.
prefer
Yep.
lists, others prefer templates. So
Yeah.
some are put out as templates and others are as lists. Even though I prefer templates for specific caches.
Mm-hmm.
Carl, I think I missed the gist of what you were saying.
Yeah, we're talking about some of the labs there are some lab caches that are put into Cachetur lists, public
Right.
lists,
Mhm.
and others are, as the Navago template there is basically a trip template. The difference is it a random list of adventure labs throughout the country? Then it's a list. If it's a collection of labs that fit as a small trip throughout the county or whatever, then it's a template, in my opinion. But it's in the eye of the beholder, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's just your own organization. Paul, I see you're struggling to unmute, and I was going to unmute you, but I am not seeing it. So on your, let's do this. Let me just show you here. And so the red button, right now your microphone shows as red. If you click that, it'll become green, and then your microphone's on.
Oh, it worked finally.
There
Thank
you
you.
go. Hi, Paula. What can we do for you?
Nothing now.
We have solved her problem. She got her mic turned on.
Hey, that was easy. So, but Paula, you were asking earlier about the Tampermonkey issue. Are you having problems installing that or something?
I'm missed a good portion of the beginning of the class, but I had used Tampermonkey and the Assistant before and was syncing bookmark lists, so I didn't know if you had gone over that or if it should be added to advanced.
To sync bookmark lists, you don't need Tampermonkey. You
Okay.
and the Assistant. That's just to pull over individual caches.
Okay.
She might be referring to the fact that Tampermonkey / the Cachetur Assistant can work inside a bookmark list to add caches.
That is true. Yeah, and I didn't show you guys that. So see, we'll do some of the advanced stuff here. So if I go here, whoops, I just added that to the wrong list. Hang on, go to your list, Chris. That's what I'm trying to do.
Yep.
All right, so if I go to a list, there we go. And I just need to activate it again because if you haven't used the Assistant, even though you activated it, when you started your session, if you didn't use it for a while, it'll turn off again. You just have to activate it again. Okay. And then see this little check mark down here? It lets me know that's already been sent to Cachetur. So I actually probably should have gone to one that I wasn't using for a demo.
Just tick either one of the checkboxes, say the Eiffel Tower.
Yeah.
And now scroll back on top again, and now. So you can select individual geocaches and then send them. No,
Where's
further
the add
down.
button?
Down.
Right there. The big green buttons that I just scrolled by, you mean?
Yeah. Those guys.
Yeah, right there. So you can send them in bulk doing it that way. Now remember,
Bulk
they're
or
still going to
individual.
come in alphabetical order. Same list issue.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, anything else, anyone?
Quiet crowd.
Yeah. Oh, there was
Maybe
a
they all
pretty.
slipped away.
Yeah, there's a good steady flow of questions along the way. I think everybody's just hanging out to see what everybody else asks.
Oh, we're gonna get a long question instead of Slack.
Keith, just go ahead and turn your microphone on and tell us. We're here. Save us typing too down the road.
Yeah. I see you joined the Slack, Keith. I have it open on the iPad, and I see you joined the channel over there. Says I can't unmute. Huh. Muted by organizer. Chris?
You should just be able to click it. Let me get down to you, Maureen. Okay, there you go, Maureen. Talk.
Hello.
Hello.
Give me a second, David, and I'm gonna find the picture you're asking about.
Maureen, did you have a question?
Oh, yeah.
Or Keith?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting. If you muted yourself, I can't unmute you.
Oh.
But if I muted you, then I can unmute you.
Yeah.
On the top of my geocaching.
So I'm gonna post a link in the chat. That should be the picture that David was asking about my car dashboard.
So Mary, you will only see the Cachetur link if you're on a cache page or in a list. If you're just like on the dashboard, see, there's no Cachetur link.
It has to be on a page where the assistant can actually do something for you.
Yeah, so it's got to be on a list or a cache page. Got it. All right.
Or now.
Oh, you got more gadgets to get there, Carl.
Yeah. Now you get in trouble with radar detectors in some states here.
Yep, that's true.
I can see, I'm just trying to sort through Keith's long question in Slack right now.
Oh, he just posted it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Initially, I'm thinking it could be that you set the trip up as a as a walking trip. Could be
A common mistake, since that's the default.
Yeah.
I keep hoping Tom Ferry will change the default to cars, because most people don't actually hike their trips. But
didn't he say that had something to do with in the background, they're numbered and hiking is 1 and car is 2, and that's why they're in that order?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you could submit a support request and grant second line support access to your trip, we can go in and see your trip and possibly figure out what's wrong. I'm sort of the guy who has to see the problem before I can understand it correctly, but
Yeah, that's where Slack excels, because if you start doing it through Facebook, things go crazy, because if Facebook shows you something once and then make sure you hardly ever see it again.
Yeah.
Okay. And Keith, I just wonder, you have done the simple thing of ordering a new route calculation after you made the change. Okay. Gotta eliminate the easy stuff first. Yeah.
Yep.
Somebody's going to have to look at that, and sounds like it's going to be Carl.
Or CourseGat. If he's online.
Somebody will pick it up from the support queue.
Yeah.
Okay.
As long as we're not sleeping, we're usually living in the support queue, but
Some of us more than others, Carl.
Some of us don't have second line access, so I don't have to worry about it.
All right. Anybody else? Anything else you guys want to know?
so who's played the Cachetur game?
Cachetur game? What is the Cachetur game?
It's not Cachetur game, but
Is
it's
that
one of the
find
small
Easter
Easter
eggs?
eggs.
Easter eggs. How did I know you were going there?
Yeah.
Try adding 2048 to
Oh,
the
that one.
yeah to the web address Cachetur.no/2048.
Go for it.
No, remove templates.
Take template off.
Got it.
Yeah. Oops, slash.
Just
Oh,
for when
this
you're bored.
thing. Oh my God. Somebody posted this as an adventure lab, and I spent way too many hours trying to fix this. Trying to figure it out. So there you go, guys. By using
Mute
your arrow
yourself.
keys, you just move it around. Do you have to get it? Is it the same as the other one? You have to get it all the way up to a.
I think
geocaching
HQ is
symbol?
the final one. So it's
Yeah.
every geocache symbol.
Oh, this one's easier. Yeah, this
Oh,
one
no, it's
doesn't
not.
have as many cells as the last one I tried. Oh boy. Oh man, Carl, I hate you. This is now a giant squirrel. And you know everybody else is sitting there doing the same darn thing.
Yeah.
You just sent somebody else down the rabbit hole. They just head in there.
So please, somebody else ask another question. Save me from myself.
You've got a mega, you're getting there.
I'm getting there. I'm also getting pretty plugged up, so.
Yeah, maybe get a giga.
2 megas make a giga.
Aha.
Yeah, Thomas has put lots of fun little things hidden all over.
Yeah, and you are the master of trying to find them.
You can do a view source on certain pages and find something.
Ah, that's true.
Yeah, there's hidden trackable codes. There is Doctor Who stuff in there. Santa Claus is in there somewhere.
There you go, you guys. That's a challenge for you to try and find all the cool stuff.
Do a giga.
Get it to a giga.
I bet it doesn't have community celebration in it.
No, I don't think so, but who knows? We might give Thomas an idea to if we have the time to change it in between all these exams.
Yeah, as soon as he
you
has
got
a
one or
free
two more to go,
moment.
right?
Yeah, Sherry, like they were saying, there's a ton in there. I have to admit, I have not invested a lot of time in searching for the Easter eggs, but I have heard about many of them. I was not aware of this one, and I actually kind of wish I still wasn't aware of this one.
Yeah.
In the search field, you can try searching for your own nick.
No,
Probably
I
won't
can't.
open
I'm
the
still
demo
trying to
account.
finish this. If one of you guys want to do it, you can take over the share screen. Not everybody needs to sit here and watch me play the puzzle. I think I'm about to die.
Yeah.
I got 2 gigas. I got a virtual. All right, what were you suggesting?
No, it was just another one. If you're trying to search for your own nick in the search field, you should be able to get a "Are you lost? Are you having trouble finding yourself?" message. But you probably have to add the _demo to get that message. But
Okay. Oops. I also have to spell it correctly. Do I have it lowercase or uppercase? I can't remember. All right, lowercase. Whoops. There we go. Very cute.
You can also search GC codes in there and see lots of more information on the geocache. Yeah, so if you type in GC40 or GCD, yeah.
Well, that's just
And
a
it should
cache
also,
page for the most part, isn't it?
yeah,
Is there
it's
something else?
basically the cache page, and it should also tell you that your friends have found it. Changelog, you can see all the changes that's been made to the description over the times. Could be helpful on some virtuals, especially Earth caches, where the CEO inadvertently added the task answers, realized his mistake, and re-edited it.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is in the changelog at the bottom. So
yeah. All right. Well, that's fairly neat. See, we've lost everybody now. They're all sitting there playing games and merging things. Well, guys, does anyone have any other questions or anything? I am going to save this, and it will be on the Cachetur YouTube channel. I will get that up there, and I will paste that into the various Facebook groups where I advertise this one. Mary, thank you. Redeeming. I'm glad to know somebody's actually applying the knowledge rather than playing silly games. I appreciate that. Okay, you guys, thanks again. Thank you, you too. Everybody take care, be safe out there, and go find a cat.
goodbye.